As a Christian, Christians' view of the human body is different from almost every other religion and every other philosophical structure for some very specific reasons. That Christians, people who follow Jesus, should have the healthiest view of their own bodies. Why? Because first off, when God created everything, He created man, and God said it was very good. Do you remember this? In Genesis chapters 1 and the beginning of Genesis 2, God is speaking all of creation into existence. And God is enjoying the work that He's doing. Like, so God made all of the celestial bodies, and God says, yeah, man, this is good. I'm doing a great job. He's enjoying His own handiwork. After every day of creation, God says, and it was very good. He saw it was good. God said it was good. It was good. And then God created man in His image, according to His likeness. And what does God say? It's very good. So the crowning jewel of creation, humanity, God makes Adam and says, that's very good. So God created humans and says, very good. You say, well, what does that have to do with the body? Because most often you think, well, God created humanity. What's the big deal about the body? Well, you have to remember, and if you want to turn there, it's going to pop up on the screen. And don't forget, I'm going to take your questions after. So if you do have a question, text them in. As I always say, if your phone doesn't text you, just grab your neighbor's. Hey, can I borrow your phone? And text in a question. I'll grab it at the end of the service. Look at John chapter 1. This is pretty amazing here. It says this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. This is verse 14. The glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John's gospel begins with this, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. So, right away, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. Like what? But then we get to verse 14, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. Who's the Word? Who's the Greek word logos? It's Jesus, right? That's who John's talking about. Now think about this. God the Son took on a body. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That is radically profound. Because every religion, almost every philosophical structure separates the body and temporality and temporal things from things that are spiritual and eternal. Probably the strongest version of this, if you guys studied philosophy in school, or you just read Plato for fun, you find that Plato's taught dualism, where the things of this world, the things of the body are wrong, bad, negative. And the things that are eternal, whatever they may be, are really good. So it's like the body's bad, things that are eternal are good. The Gnostics taught the same thing. It doesn't matter about the body. The body's no big deal. It's about the spiritual. See, Christianity teaches that God took on a body. And really, almost all of the biblical account talks about God taking things that are seemingly normal or common and God using them for phenomenal things. I think of Jesus at the wedding at Cana in Galilee. Remember that, John chapter 2? Where they ran out of wine. And Jesus took water that was being set apart to be for ritual purity, and He turned it into wedding wine. Do you ever think about what the implications of that was? Not that Jesus was the coolest guy to have at a party ever. You know, now listen, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be coarse, but Jesus turned water into wine at a wedding. I know some Christians have been trying to turn it back ever since. It's like, what are we going to do with that? You know? It's like, Jesus, it wasn't real wine. No, it was pretty good wine. You know? But the reality is Jesus took something that was meant for ritual purity and spirituality, and He turned it into common drinking wine for a wedding. Do you think it was just about turning water into wine? Or do you think Jesus was trying to tell us something about what He was doing? See, Christians have a different view of the body because God took on a body and lived in the world in a body. And that is a very powerful truth. Now, you might be saying, but listen, you're saying all this stuff, but Pastor, I've read my Bible. And I read the teachings of Paul, and Paul says the spirit is good and the flesh is evil. Right? Some of you are sitting there thinking that, right? I know you are. I can read your mind. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing about, see, when Paul uses the word flesh in the Bible, his predominant meaning of that word is not skin or body. The word flesh means that part of us that is in rebellion against God. That part of us who wants to do it our own way. To follow our own lead. To live in our bodies however we want to. That is flesh. And spirit, when Paul speaks of being in the spirit, he's talking about us being under the authority of Jesus. Us following Jesus and letting Him have the authority over our lives. So Paul isn't saying that the body is negative. He's saying that what is negative is us in rebellion against God. And he calls out the word flesh. So Paul isn't speaking about having a negative view of the body. He's speaking that the issue for us is that in our hearts we live in rebellion. And that's the flesh. So the first thing we have to get right in place is that Jesus took on a body. And that is a substantial truth. That shows us something different about the body. Now, second, and this is important, as Christians, we neither deify nor denigrate the body. We neither deify nor denigrate the body. Now, look at this verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church in Corinth, says this, "Do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple, God will destroy him. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are." See what he says here? He says, do you not know that you're the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? Now, I think this verse is important in regards to what I just said, that we neither deify nor denigrate the body. And the reason I think it's important is because in this verse, it does not say that our body is God. It says that our body is the temple of God. And that the Spirit of God, who is God, dwells within us. Now, I bring this up because I use the word deify and denigrate for two reasons. One, because it both begins with D, and you guys will all remember it then. But two, because we live in a culture, especially here in the marina, where the body is deified. And we come through a church culture where most often the body is denigrated. So what I want to do is, by using those two words, I realize, I mean, you guys, we're going to leave, you're going to go on the Marina Green, you're going to see a lot of body deification going on. You're just going to see it. We live in a culture, especially here in the Bay Area, where the body is the most important thing. I've never been in my life in a more body-conscious area than this, where people put their whole hope and trust on their bodies. And the Bible doesn't teach us that our body is God. And so it's important for us to realize that we have to be careful in being healthy not to have an idol. See, the difference between being in shape and having body idolatry is in your heart, not in your biceps or your abs or your quads or your glutes. It's not there. It's in your heart. You can be healthy and have body idolatry, or you can be out of shape and have body idolatry. The idolatry issue is a heart issue, but it often plays itself out in the body. See, the body is not the be-all, end-all of existence. We do not deify it. And there's no doubt with the New Age emphases of this area that the body is everything. There's a big body emphasis. So we don't deify it. So that's what I would consider to be the predominant struggle of people outside the church, especially in this culture. But inside the church, the problem is with the denigration of the body, which kind of goes like this. I know Jesus is coming back. It's all going to burn, so what's the big deal? I'm going to have the pie and die. And it's a big problem because what the church has done is it's taken Paul's teaching on the issues with the flesh and we've over-realized it to say it isn't a big deal because I worship God with my spirit and the body, it just doesn't really matter. And it's